Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third event of Black Religions and Spirituality Day here at UT Austin, hosted by UT Austin's Warfield Center and the Department of Religious Studies. I want to thank our guest artist, guest speaker, and I also want to thank our audience, those of you who have joined live or even by way of the recording. I'm excited to begin by introducing our guest artist. We have with us visual artist Carmelle Beaugelin. Carmelle is a Haitian American visual artist, innovation consultant, and holy cheerleader alongside social entrepreneurs and congregational leaders with ministry incubators. Carmelle received her Master of Divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary. She is the founder and lead curating artist at BeauFolio Studio, an emerging art house at the intersection of sacred art, human-centered design, and restorative equity. As a sacred artist, Carmelle strives to curate art and immersive creative experiences that offer pathways to a deeper sense of divinity, self, and community. And as we begin, I'll just say a few words about how things are going to go. Carmelle is going to begin by sharing a presentation, a talk, and then after that, Carmelle will lead us through an exercise which she will explain further. However, I just want to remind everyone who's here, for the exercise, you're going to need something to write with and something to write on. Something to write with and something to write on. And so if Tech can put that into the chat room for our audience, that would be great. And with all of those things taken care of, Carmelle, it is now you, and you can go ahead and begin.
Jade, thank you so much for the invitation to be here and to be part of, oh my gosh, such an amazing and dynamic event. You know, there is a Haitian Creole saying that says, Jean vini, c'est Jean you recevoir, which means how you show up is how you are received. And so I'm so grateful to Jay for her phenomenal scholarship and being a dear friend, as well as the rest of the team, Christina, for working all the tech and the list of dynamic presenters that are part of this event. It is an honor to be named among the roll call. So for our time together, we'll be going through an exploration. We'll be briefly exploring the flag and artistic tapestry, informing identity in Haitian Vodou. But really, the goal of our time together is to lay a groundwork so that you may be able to identify key symbols that form your own creative tapestry and inform who you are in this space together. So before I formally introduce my own tapestry, I want to invite us in the spirit of rest, for Black bodies, into a centering moment. If you have been part of the journey of this event so far, you have heard amazing speakers, you have thought amazing thoughts, but it can also still be overwhelming to take in so much information, especially on Zoom. And so I want to invite you, you do not have to turn on your camera. In fact, if it feels more comfortable for you, you may keep your camera off. But I want to invite you into a centering space and into a space of radical silence. And I usually begin Creatio Divina exercises, which we'll do in a minute, with a breathing exercise. And so from wherever you are, I want to invite you to take a moment to draw into yourself and do a body scan. As people, we often hold a lot of tension in our bodies, especially in areas like our jaw, our shoulders. And so I want you to draw into that space right now and notice if you are clenching your jaw. You know, I invite you to create a little bit of space between your top teeth and your bottom teeth. You can do this with your mouth shut if you would like, and just create just a little bit of space, and maybe even go ahead and touch yourself kindly around the jaw area, just to let your body know it's okay. You can let your guard down, right? We oftentimes hold a lot of tension on our shoulders, like especially like we're on Zoom, we're on the computer. So I want to invite you to just release your shoulders down and back. You'll find when you do this, you even automatically, without a lot of effort, sit a little taller. And for just the next few moments, I want to invite you into a space of breath. At the end of the day, our breath is our life force. It is the force of our creativity. And so I want to invite you into a space of breathing. And one of the ways I love to do that, because I am easily distracted, is to engage in breathing with my whole body, particularly through alternate nose breathing. So I do this a lot. You see this a lot in a lot of yoga practices. But alternate nose breathing is when you take two fingers. I like to take my thumb and I like to take my pinky, and you literally breathe through alternate nostrils. So you would cover one nostril, you would breathe in, you would hold it for just a second at the top, transition the fingers to the other nostril to cover, and breathe out. Let's do a few cycles, and then I'll do one cycle in silence. So you'll breathe in, hold, transition, you'll breathe it out. Let's do one more in silence and at your own pace. Thank you so much for participating in that time of grounding and breathing. At any point, if anything about this talk or this practice becomes overwhelming, you can always return to your breath. So to share with you a little bit of my own tapestry, this is a part of my tapestry. I am the daughter of Anita Francois Condé, who was a devout Pentecostal from the rivers of Benin, which is a fertile valley town on Haiti's southern coast, and the daughter of Jade Beaugelin from Petit Goave, Haiti, a Haitian street artist. His sketch actually is the one sketch that's not mine, that's featured here in color, and a medicine man well-versed in remedies, tea leaves, and Jewish mysticism. Within my own cosmic tapestry, I carry with me the over 200-year-old history of my ancestral communities in Haiti, the influence of generations of self-liberated, formerly enslaved Africans, as well as the faint echoes of Taino natives, Arabic merchants, and French colonial unions made in the name of both love and dominance. While my first language is English, my father enforced speaking Creole at home with the belt, okay? But part of it was he feared that, like some of my cousins, I'd lose the ability to communicate with the elders. And in his words, I remember him saying, those who lose their native artistic language eventually lose themselves. And so if you know anything about people who are of Caribbean descent, you know that we are very proud people, okay? Even if we are second or third generation American, British, Canadian, it doesn't matter. We will hang our Caribbean flags from our cars. We will pack them up when we go on vacation and at our weddings for photo ops. We'll even place them in our social media bios, like I admit that I do. And these foreign flags, they are our ancestral flags. They offer some kind of comfort, kind of like saying to people, we here, but we not really from here, It's possible that we hold fast to these foreign identities at its worst, for better, for worse, as a way to disengage, and perhaps at its best, to find some sort of rest from the psychological weight of being Black in America. And utilizing national flags as a vehicle of fantasy to access Black imagination, or as I like to call it, Imaginoir, is deeply grounded in indigenous Haitian cosmology. Haitian voodoo's cosmological home, after all, is Guinea, which is African Guinea. It is the mystical, distant land across the Atlantic waters where the ancestors live and from where the spirit intervenes. So in Haitian culture, Imaginoir looks like the cosmic worldview of Vodou. So when we look at a Vodou flag, like we see on this particular screen, like any flag, we are observing not only the national history of a people, but we're also viewing the express cosmology of their theology. So you'll notice here on this flag, a chief identifying element of a Vodou flag is the detail of the veve, as we see here in Rudy Azor's beaded Vodou flag dedicated to the Haitian goddess Ezili. So veves are symbols of Haitian cosmology in geometric and artistic form. And as cosmograms, veves convey an understanding of the universe and the relationship between the cosmic unseen world and the material world that we live in. So in this slide, for example, we see various veves for different Vodou deities. And we also see the origin of Haitian veves from the Congo people, as well as from ancient Nigerian writing that was transported to Cuba and Haiti via the slave trade. So each voodoo deity or loa is assigned a symbolic veve symbol that serves as a visual theology of their role in the pantheon of Haitian cosmology. So let's just explore one together. So this one here, we see the most used and most popular veve symbol representing Ezili Donto. Now, Ezili is the main loa, or senior spirit of the Petwo family within the pantheon of Haitian Vodou, and arguably the most important loa to the Haitian community. Ezili's depiction also is such a wonderful example of the creolization, or the point of intersection of the historic religious and cultural identity of Haiti, which is African, it is Taino native, it is French, it is all of these things wrapped into one identity. So to the left of the screen, I think it's your left, you'll see a colorful painting of Ezili by the critically acclaimed Haitian painter François Elissin. And then to the right, we'll see a historical depiction of the famous Black Madonna of Poland, who interestingly enough resembles a dark-skinned virgin of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, which is the Catholic patron saint of Haiti. Here we see she is wounded, she has scratches on her face, and brokenhearted. Her veve depicts a sword piercing her heart like that of Mary, Our Lady of Sorrows. But nevertheless, she is a mother, she is a protector of her often ill-fated considered children. And she is, like the mother of Jesus, the matron of mothers whose children are suffering, as well as of the motherless. She fiercely guards those who serve her, and her wrath burns hot against those who cross her and her children. In fact, the sacred feast that kicks off the start of the Haitian Revolution was made in her honor. And the revolt's success in abolishing slavery and establishing the first Black Republic solidified her as a national law of Haiti. So in Ezili, we see an example of the ingenuity of the Black imagination, constantly reinventing itself so that it may accomplish radical rest, lasting resilience, and perpetual relevance. So these flags, often seen in places of worship, remind us and their viewers who view them that who we are and where we are in the world is part of a greater cosmic story within our community. So from that posture of these flags, I want to invite you into a creative moment wherever you are into a practice of radical creative rest, forming your own definition of resilience and self-relevance. You may wonder, okay, what are the tapestries in our lives? You may not identify with the national flags of where you are, but I wonder, what may the tapestry of your identities look like? What are the symbols that represent your place within the cosmic story of your people? So during the next few moments, I want to invite you to begin to sketch out a tapestry, sketch out a banner, if you will, under which you are free to bring your full self and rest for a while. And so if you haven't already done so, please feel free to grab some materials, grab some crayons, markers, pencils, whatever you have, as we journey in creativity together. So over the past year, I've had the joy of leading Creatio Divina exercises in person as well as online. Creatio Divina is a process of divine creating alongside ourselves, each other, and within the cosmic spaces that we inhabit. While this practice draws from certain practices within ancient Christianity, you need not be religious to immerse yourself in the process. I only ask that you remain open and allow your imagination, your Imaginoir, to move you past any limiting narratives and be open to the process and be open to the community that you are doing it with. And so we'll be flowing as shown here through 5 movements. We will be starting off centering ourselves once again from the information to the creation with a breath. Then there will be a time to invite. You will have a space to invite yourself into the process, to invite your guides, whether it is a God, whether it is a deity, a spirit, or something within yourself into the process. You'll have a time to invite your intentions. And lastly, like good Caribbean folk, sometimes we have to broom evil spirits out of our house. You will have a time to disinvite things that don't serve you as well in this space. Most importantly, there will be a time of creating where I will be doing a reading and we will have a few moments of creating together. And we'll be creating from the question, what symbols represent your place within the cosmic story of your people? And then we'll do a little bit of reflection and examination, and then we'll do the ask. So before we get started, for those of you who are like, I don't paint, I don't draw, I don't do none of that, okay? I want to invite you to do something that I don't know what it's called yet, it's called a Holy Scribble. So a Holy Scribble is taking a material and just creating lines on your page, keeping the material down on the page, and then taking a step back and then trying to discern from that scribble you made, what are the shapes, images, whatever it may be that stick out to you. So if you're having trouble trying to come up with something or whatever off the top of your head, you may do this and this will give you a little bit more guidance as you create. So you see here, that was my Holy Scribble. And then I created, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a platypus. I don't know, but I created something from it. And so if you feel overwhelmed, just know that this method is available to you. And sharing here, these are some of the other Creatio Divina creations that have come out of similar practices. And I show you this to show you, you don't need to be a fine artist. You don't need to be, a Picasso or anything like that. You bring yourself. That is the point of this time together. And so as we begin, I want to transition and invite you into a space, once again, of breath. Usually when I do this practice, sometimes I'll have some music or other things, but I think it's important doing this practice in this space to allow the space for the quiet, in a way that we don't usually have, especially not on Zoom. So I invite you into the space of quiet. Again, I invite you to do a body scan similar to how we began. And then into a time of breathing, whether you do alternate nose breathing or another kind of breathing exercise. As we transition to the invitation, I want you to take a moment, whether in your heart or out loud, which can be also a very powerful thing to cut the silence wherever you are. I want to invite you to invite yourself. Literally say it to yourself, I invite myself in. Particularly, I want to compel you to invite perhaps parts of yourself that as a scholar you may have left out, as a Black person you may have left behind in maybe certain spaces. I want you to invite that part of you as well as all of you into this moment. I want you also to take a moment and invite you to invite your spirit guide. For me, I'm gonna invite the Holy Spirit. That's just who I am. But for you, it may be a particular deity, it may be something or someone else from which you feel you need guidance. So take a moment to invite them in. And the last invitation is twofold. As you make those invitations of yourself, I want you to disinvite, explicitly disinvite anything, any thought, any person, any spirit that you feel will not serve you in this practice. I invite you into a moment of creating. If you are anything like me and you're like, I already started, that's good. That's good. But I invite you into a moment of creating. And I usually open this moment with a reading. And we'll do this in 3 cycles as time permits. But I will open this time of creating from a reading from Edric Dunnicat, who is a Haitian writer. Hear her words. I come from a place where breath, eyes, and memory are one. A place from which you carry your past like a hair on your head, where women return to their children as butterflies, or as tears in the eyes of the statues that their daughters pray to. They say behind mountains are more mountains. 2 mountains can never meet, but perhaps you and I can meet again. I am coming to your waterfall. I invite you to a time of silence and creating. As you continue to create, I invite you to listen or follow along to the second reading from Edwig Danticat. I come from a place where breath, eyes, and memory are one. A place from which you carry your past like a hair on your head, where women return to their children as butterflies or as tears in the eyes of the statues that their daughters pray to. They say behind mountains are more mountains. Two mountains can never meet, but perhaps you and I can meet again. I am coming to your waterfall. Hear now the third and final reading as we create from Edwig Danticat, Haitian writer, a reading. I come from a place where breath, eyes, and memory are one. A place from which you carry your past like a hair on your head, where women return to their children as butterflies, or as tears in the eyes of the statues that their daughters pray to. They say behind mountains are more mountains. Two mountains can never meet, but perhaps you and I can meet again. I am coming to your waterfall. I invite you to continue to create as you feel led. But as we move to our fourth movement, I want to invite you into a space of reviewing with curiosity what you've created. So you're looking at what you've done so far with curious eyes. And I want to invite you to explore the question. You can jot it down on the edges of your paper, or you can reflect on it internally. Who do you see yourself as based on what you've created here? What are you bringing? Is there anything that was surprising that you included? Is there anything that was surprising that you left out? What are some of the symbols there that resonate for you? And finally, as we move to our final movement of Creatio Divina, I invite you to ask an open-ended question to ourselves or to our guides or to the spirit or to the universe, but asking an open-ended question. That question can look like questions that you have been wanting to ask for so long, haven't found the words to. That can look like a question that maybe you have been taught through your place of worship or your church or whatever that you're not allowed to really ask. But I want to invite you to name that question. Maybe you don't even have the words, but even if it's a symbol you draw, or even if it's an inner moan that you utter, I want to invite you to offer up that ask as an offering. As we close out our time together, it brings to mind one of my favorite proverbs reads, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the honor of royalty to seek it out." And so as you do this practice, as you look at your creation, just know it's okay. It is not going to be done, right? But that's intentional. You're supposed to come back to your flags. You're supposed to come back to your tapestry. They serve as banners and reminders of parts of you that sometimes you may not always be able to bring into every space, but they are nonetheless part of the makeup of your cosmology. And so as you go into the next session and into the weekend, my hope for you is that you receive clarity to ask the questions that you've posed and the answers to perceive them, that you may be attentive to the hums of your cosmic tapestry, and that you may find all of the rest that you need for your soul. So I love it when folks share with me what they've created. No judgment here. We are all artists. And so please, 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 please connect with me. I would love to see what you've created. I'd love to hear more about your own tapestry and your story. So you can scan that QR code and it will save my contact information right into your contacts. Or you can shoot me an email or connect with me online. However way, I would love to see what you create and what you continue to create. And so special thanks. Thank you so much for trusting me to create alongside me. That is a very vulnerable act to do these kinds of things. And I want to again thank the organizers, Jade, Christina, for inviting me in. So Jade, I pass it back to you.
Carmelle, wow, wow, wow. This has been, for me personally, it was a time of restoration, you know? So I appreciate your leadership, and I'm just so grateful, my good friend, that you were able to contribute to this Black Religions and Spirituality Day here at UT Austin. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your participation. And I also want to thank all of our audience who took a moment and allowed yourselves to be vulnerable and to pause and to create. And if if you had any experience like the experience I had, I'm sure and I know that you had such a good time. And so with that, I am going to just quickly say that I believe we put Carmelle's website into the chat. I don't know if we can put that in there again one more time. Maybe someone from the text team can do that. Please do keep up with Carmelle and all of her art and all of her exhibits and all of her great leadership of exercises like this. Thank you again, everyone. And we hope that all of you can join us in just a few moments for our final event for today, our lecture by Dr. Elise Edwards. Thank you all.